Today is Monday, July 12th, 2021. I'm back from vacation, back in the borough, the middle of Tennessee, and I feel terrible. I feel really bad. I'd love to have been uploading more. I'm back in my apartment now. I'm probably going to be uploading way more frequently than I normally do this upcoming week. But welcome to Derapy Season 2. When I was on vacation, it was awesome. I got to celebrate my grandmother's 75th birthday. I got to play badminton with my little cousins and hang out with all of them and get to see my aunts and uncles. I ate at a few restaurants that I've never heard of. I was in New York, and I was in Massachusetts, which is the place where I was born, and I thought that I didn't sound very Southern. And then I spent time around people that actually live in New York and Massachusetts, and I was like, yeah, I'm a bit of a bumpkin. But I got to see the medical center where I had surgery on my eyeballs when I was 3. I got to see the hospital that I was born in. It was awesome. And it was honestly a beautiful and surreal experience seeing my growing family and my growing cousins. And it was just fantastic. But there was one day, there was one moment, there was one experience, there's one story that I want to tell you about why I was in danger. I may or may not have mentioned before, but my favorite burger place, easily, is Shake Shack. So there was a Shake Shack in New York near the hotel that my siblings and I were staying at. So it is walking distance, but we're on vacation. The Lyft to get there costs $10. There's 3 of us. So I'm like, okay, dope, love that. It's like $3 per person. We'll call it. Guy named Howard comes and picks us up. I can tell, by his demeanor that he's kind of annoyed because understanding how Lyft works personally, because I work for them, you don't start getting paid until the passengers are actually in your vehicle. So knowing this, I plan on compensating him handsomely. So he's driving extremely fast. It's New York. He doesn't say a word to us. It's New York. It's no big deal. He drops us off at Shake Shack, and I let him know I already added your tip on the app. Because people love to do this thing when they're in Lyfts and Ubers where they say, hey, I'm going to tip you on the app, and then they don't do it. So I let him know that I did it during the ride. He was very appreciative. I could tell. So we're at Shake Shack. I'm not going to talk about the Shake Shack experience. If you've been there, you know it's dope. If you haven't been, just please go. Find the nearest Shake Shack to you. They're not paying me to say this, by the way, but seriously, just go give it a shot. We're not here to talk about Shake Shack today. We're here to talk about the ride back. So, just like before, I know that the hotel that we're staying at is 1 mile away, but we're in New York, and I don't feel like walking in the dark, dealing with the mosquitoes, dealing with, just being in an unfamiliar area. So I call another Lyft, as I do. I work for them. Howard was cool. I mean, cool enough. He didn't say anything, but he got the job done. So I think if I just call another Lyft to get back to the hotel, my older brother, my little sister, and I, it's going to be no big deal. We have masks. We're ready to go. No problems. So I hail the Lyft to take us from Shake Shack to 1 mile down the road at our hotel. Right after I order the Lyft, I get a call. And my phone shows me the caller ID, just says Lyft driver. And I'm like, oh, it must be the Lyft driver. I pick up the phone. And I say, hey. And he's like, hey, this is David. Am I speaking to Derek? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I'm going to be your Lyft driver. You said there's 3 of you, right? So in the note that I put for the ride, I said there are 3 of us because I just feel like it's a courteous thing to let a driver know. So he says, there are 3 of you, correct? And I say, yes. And he says, okay, so just so you know, I'm going to need you all to sit in the back seat. And I say, okay. And then he says, you're all going to need to keep your seatbelts on because I keep C4 under the seat in my car. And if you guys blow up, that's a mess I don't want to have to deal with. I'm sorry. You what? I nervously laugh a bit and I'm like, okay. And he's like, all right, I'll see you guys in a bit. Context. David looks like, how do I describe it? He looks like he's like an older Caucasian white dude. He has short white beard, short white facial hair, short white hair on his head, and he's wearing a hat. He looks like he's about to go fishing. He's probably like some type of military veteran who just casually brings up the fact that they have C4 in their car, who just casually brings up the fact that it might blow you up. Who thinks that they can joke about something like that with people that they've never met? Who would say something like that with people that they've never seen? Or who would ever say something like that to people that are supposed to be paying them? All these things are going through my head. None of it really makes any sense. But I'm like visibly like unsettled on the phone. My siblings are like, what's going on? What happened? And I'm like, nothing, everything's fine. And they're like, did he say something? I'm like, yeah, he said we should keep our seatbelts on. And they're like, why are you laughing? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just, whatever, don't worry about it. I promise, it's fine. They're like, what did he say? I'm like, nothing. Why would I put my siblings in this situation? Because this guy drives a 2020 Toyota Camry. By the way, I'm not doxing this dude. I'm not going to like give out any specific information about him that is really relevant. This guy is in New York, and he probably doesn't have the job anymore. It's really not relevant. So I don't want to scare them into not wanting to take the ride because I don't want to walk. And also, I don't think this guy's actually going to do anything. I think he's just an old, weird dude making a bad joke. So I think. So he pulls up to the Shake Shack after about 10 minutes. And at this point, my siblings have pretty much let it go. It's not that big of a deal. And I'm trying to stay cool because I'm thinking that I think that my theory is he understands how short of a ride it's going to be. And he knows that you only get paid for the amount of time that passengers are in the vehicle. So him threatening to blow me up with C4, along with my siblings, is his way of trying to scare me into canceling the ride so he doesn't have to do it. But I'm not scared. In hindsight, I probably should have been, but whatever. Now that I'm here and you hear my voice, you know that I'm okay. And that's all that really matters, and my siblings are too. He pulls up to the Shake Shack. I walk outside. He rolls down the window. He says, Derek? I say, yup. I look at my siblings. They're both with me. We all have our masks on. We all get in the back seat. As soon as the door closes, he says, you guys know with the time it took me to drive over here, you guys could have fucking walked. I'm sorry. So there's like the most awkward silence. It was probably only about 3 or 4 seconds, but just for a frame of reference, I'm not going to say anything for the next 3 or 4 seconds. That was a bit much, right? So after he says that, he actually starts to drive the car, which is okay. Like, what's gonna happen? Should I check under the seat? I don't know. So nobody's saying anything. It's really odd, and it's been about 20 seconds at this point, and I'm like, well, we're not from around here, and we would probably take a lift regardless of the distance because we're not familiar with the area. We're on vacation. I think he came to terms with the fact that we weren't so offended that we were going to end or cancel the ride. We were all just kind of like, well, we're already here. And I think, again, his tactic was, I'm going to be so mean or so aggressive that they're going to be so uncomfortable that they end this ride, they don't do it anymore, they complain, or they start an argument. Because if we respond with the same hostility that he initiated, then he's going to have an excuse to tell us to get out of the car. And you know what? I'm not doing it. So we notice immediately in his back seat, like tape to the back of his passenger seat, like it's like a sign that says zombies beware, which is odd because it's July, it's nowhere near Halloween, it's not even close. And then on the backside of his driver's seat, there's like a plastic sword, like duct tape to it. It's all just kind of a bit of an odd scene. And he, after some time, starts trying to talk to us again because I think he's trying to salvage the situation. I think he's had a little bit of time to reflect on just how weird he's being and how unnecessarily hostile he's been. And he's like, so, I was just joking, by the way. No, you weren't. He starts asking us how Shake Shack was. Shake Shack was awesome, my dude. It always is. But I don't really want to get into it right now because we've already talked C4, and you already told me that the better choice was to have walked as opposed to asking you to give us a ride, which is literally your job. Also, the penalty for canceling rides is extremely small. I work for Lyft. If there's something that you don't want to do, if there's a distance that you don't want to drive, you can cancel it at any time. You don't have to call and threaten to blow people up or tell them that they should have walked as soon as they got into the car. But whatever. He starts asking us like these small talk questions. I'm not into it as a driver. I'm not into it as a rider. I'm like, Shake Shack was fine. It was fine. It was fine. I'm lying at this point because it was incredible. But the very first light that we pull up to, the light's red, and we're supposed to be turning right, and there's no traffic coming from either way, and it's been like 5 seconds, and he just won't go. The light finally turns green, he still won't go. The person behind us honks. It's New York. We take a right, we're going down the street. Literally 3-4 minutes later, after he continues to try and tell us that he appreciates us for waiting on him, and that he really enjoys our company, which it's just nothing but lies, David. We finally get to the point where we're supposed to turn into our hotel. He almost misses the turn. He slams on the brakes, almost hits the sign going into the hotel, and he says, "Oh, I don't really have any excuses. I pretty much live here." I'm like, okay, can you please back up? Can you please turn into the hotel? And he finally lets us out of the car, and then we go into the hotel lobby, and Lyft is asking me how I'd like to rate the experience, and can you guess how I rated the experience? It was moderately unpleasant, to say the least. I give it 1 star. I leave a very specific and detailed account of the events, and then Lyft says, "Okay, that doesn't sound great. Would you like us to call you?" I'd love to be called, Lyft. I tell them exactly what happened. I ask if I can have a refund. They tell me that they're going to email me with, a follow-up to let me know the conclusion that they come to. I don't really think it's all that hard. I don't really think much of an investigation is required, considering that he said these things on a recorded line. But whatever. That's fine. Whatever. Who cares? It's fine. Just a few hours later, I receive an email, and the email says that I'm going to be getting a $5 credit for my next ride. First of all, what makes you think I ever even want to? I don't even have the Lyft app on my phone anymore at this point. It's already gone. I was waiting for a full refund and also a full apology. But you're going to send me an email that says I'm getting a $5 credit off my next ride, assuming I even want another ride. Also, since when are we providing resolutions that we haven't even agreed upon? You should have offered me the credit first. Maybe my standard for customer service is just off the charts these days, but typically when you're offering somebody a solution like it's something that they actually want. I just told you that this guy said he had C4 in his car. I don't even know if that's legal to have, and he's talking about blowing me up with it, so I should keep my seatbelt on. Also, he told me I should have walked. That should be enough right there. This isn't even a customer service issue. It's like a health and safety issue. I was threatened. So I'm not going to let it go. I start tweeting, and I say I'm going to tweet every day. And Lyft reaches out to me via Twitter DM, and they tell me that they're going to email me again, which I don't think is going to help. And all I want is a full apology and somebody to understand the severity of my situation. I don't want people telling me, "Oh, that sounds really tough. Man, if that was me, I'd be very uncomfortable." I want you to really think about what happened to me, address that, apologize profusely, assure me that not only will I not be paired with him, but he's never going to give anybody else a ride again, because I don't want anybody else to have to deal with that. And then I want a full refund. And I'd also like an emailed copy of him behind bars. But, that's just the cherry on top. I'd appreciate it. So after days and days and days of tweeting, I finally give up, and I decide to call them again. And I talked to a very nervous man named Vic. I don't care. He's some random guy that works for Lyft. I don't know where he is. It doesn't matter that I said his name. Vic is telling me very nervously and cautiously that they're still aware of the situation and they haven't forgotten. It's still being investigated. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I need you to make another report. I need you to add more notes to the account because my issue hasn't been resolved. You offered me a $5 credit that I didn't want, and nobody seems to care. Nobody cares. Why doesn't anyone care? Why doesn't anyone care? It's just a little bit weird. So he says that he's going to make another report. He says that it's not as simple as just giving me my refund, which I don't understand. But the more that I thought about it, the more I realized that this is not just a customer service issue. It's something that's so serious that it does probably require a full investigation. If they actually did put me in the car, they matched me with somebody that was threatening me, I think them giving me the full refund is them basically admitting guilt, and then I could probably use that full refund as evidence, like in a court of law or something. I don't know. This is all just speculation. But I kind of understand why Vic sounds so scared on the phone when I talk to him. So, not even an hour or so later, at this point, this incident happened last Wednesday. The resolution doesn't even come until Sunday. I finally get a call from somebody named Mindy, who works with the health and safety team at Lyft, and she asked for my full account of the event, which I'm clearly very, very well versed in. I give it all to her. She is way, way more empathetic, which I appreciate. She assures me that I'm going to get the refund. She also assures me that his account's already been shut down, which is fantastic. It sounds like I'm making a big deal out of this, and I really probably wouldn't if it wasn't for the fact that, like, I allowed my siblings to be put in a situation like that, and I feel responsible for it. It hurts, man. I felt, like, really guilty because I heard this man over the phone, and I knew how crazy he sounded, and I didn't know that he was also going to tell us that we should have walked, or he was going to yell at me, or he was going to slam on the brakes or not hit the gas at any given time, or he was going to have all this weird paraphernalia in his car. I didn't know, so I wasn't going to let it go. Even when my siblings let it go, I wasn't going to let it go. Also, I work for these people. It be your own people. So no, I wasn't going to allow it to stand. And luckily, Mindy came through, and she gave me my refund immediately. She told me it could take up to 5 business days. It took like 5 business minutes. She got it to me. She sent me a very, very professional, like 6-paragraph email that was not scripted at all. And I just, man, it was just quite the experience. I just don't understand why it's so hard for people to just do their job. Or, if you don't want to do your job, just don't do your job. I talk to people all the time that complain about their job. I'm like, well, if you think it sucks, just quit. Like, I've convinced probably a dozen people in the past year when I'm giving rides through Lyft to just quit their job. And some of them do it because you are responsible for your own happiness, and other people don't deserve to have it taken out on them just because your life is miserable. If your job sucks, leave your job. Find another job, preferably before you quit your job. But stop just complaining all the time. Don't be a David. Don't threaten people because you don't want to do the job. Maybe just cancel the ride, or maybe just quit your job. Anyways, that was just one of the many incredible things that happened to me over vacation. I mean, that was easily like the most negative experience. Everything else was fantastic, and I look forward to talking with you all more about it. Also, we have to talk more hoops because the Bucks just won, and I need the Suns to win because I bet real life cash, baby. Anyways, I'm extremely happy to be back, and gosh darn it, I'll be back tomorrow. This episode was made possible by Anchor. If you're listening to this episode on Spotify, please consider giving me a follow so you can be notified when I upload. If this ever ends up on Apple Podcasts, I'd really appreciate a 5-star rating if you enjoyed it. Follow me on Twitter at Derapy Podcast or Instagram at Derapy_podcast. The intro music is by my brother, Damon Buxton. Outro music is by Lobo, and cover art is by my friend Nick Johnson. Thanks for listening. This has been Derapy.